The night Tampa had been waiting for did not begin quietly. It didn't ease its way into history. It didn't politely introduce itself. It arrived like a shockwave, like a pulse that started somewhere deep beneath the surface and then exploded outward, unstoppable, uncontrollable, unforgettable. And at the very center of that explosion stood Jungkook, not just as a performer, not just as a global icon, but as something far more powerful in that moment, something that fans would later struggle to describe, because what happened inside Raymond James Stadium didn't feel real. It felt like something else entirely. From the outside, it looked like a concert, a massive one, yes, filled with tens of thousands of people, glowing lights, towering screens, and a stage designed to impress. But the truth that only those who were there could fully understand, was that this was never just a concert. This was a collision of energy, emotion, and expectation that had been building for years, and on this night in Tampa, it finally erupted. Hours before the show, the atmosphere was already electric. The streets had been overwhelmed by fans, voices echoing into the evening air, purple light sticks glowing like distant stars. But even that chaos, that overwhelming presence of army, felt like a prelude, like the opening note of a song that hadn't yet reached its chorus. Because everything was leading to one moment, and no one, absolutely no one, was prepared for what that moment would become. When the stadium lights dimmed, it happened instantly. The sound vanished, replaced by a silence so intense it felt heavy, pressing down on every person in the crowd. It lasted only a second, maybe less, but in that second, something shifted. Something changed. The energy, already high, twisted into something sharper, something more focused. And the bass dropped. Not gently, not gradually. It hit like thunder, vibrating through the seats, through the floor, through the bodies of everyone present. The screens ignited, the stage lit up, and the crowd exploded into a roar so loud it blurred into something almost physical. And then, he appeared. Jungkook didn't walk onto the stage. He didn't run. He didn't even emerge in a way that felt ordinary. He arrived, suspended above the stage, descending slowly, almost unreal, as if gravity itself had decided to take a step back and let something extraordinary happen. For a split second, no one screamed. No one moved, because what they were seeing didn't match what their minds expected. Was he flying? And then reality caught up. The stadium erupted. Screams tore through the air, louder than anything that had come before. Fans jumped, cried, shouted his name, their voices cracking under the weight of emotion they couldn't control. Phones shook in trembling hands, trying to capture a moment that already felt too big for a screen. Jungkook landed. But the impact of that entrance didn't end there. Because from the very first movement, from the very first note he sang, it became clear that something was different. His energy wasn't just high, it was overwhelming. It radiated outward, filling every corner of the stadium, reaching every fan, pulling them into something deeper than just a performance. He wasn't performing for them. He was performing with them. Each step of choreography hit harder, sharper, more precise. Each vocal line carried weight, emotion, power. And every time he moved across the stage, the crowd responded instantly, as if connected to him by something invisible yet undeniable. Song after song, the intensity built. But it wasn't just the music. It was the presence, the control, the way he commanded attention without demanding it. At one point, he paused, just for a second, and in that moment, something shifted again. Jungkook smiled. Not the polished, practiced smile of an idol, but something softer, something real. And the reaction was immediate. Fans broke down. Some covered their faces, unable to process the intensity of what they were feeling. Others screamed louder, as if trying to release everything building inside them. Because it wasn't just about seeing him. It was about being seen by him. And that connection, that impossible, massive, yet deeply personal connection, was what turned the night into something unforgettable. Then came the moment that would define everything. It happened without warning. The music changed, the lighting shifted, and suddenly The stage itself transformed. The platforms rose, the screens fractured into moving visuals, and Jungkook stepped forward into a space that felt almost surreal. The choreography stopped. The noise softened. The energy tightened, focusing entirely on him. For a heartbeat, everything felt still. And then, he jumped. Not a small leap, not a simple movement, but something bigger, higher, weightless, unreal. The crowd lost control. Screams turned into something else, something raw, something primal, something that couldn't be contained by language or logic. It was pure reaction, pure emotion, pure disbelief. Because what they were witnessing wasn't just impressive. It was unforgettable. The choreography resumed, but now it felt different, bigger, more intense, as if that moment had unlocked something inside Jungkook, something inside the crowd, something inside the entire stadium. The rest of the performance blurred together in a wave of sound, light, and emotion. At times, it felt overwhelming. At times, it felt unreal. But through it all, one thing remained constant. Jungkook was in control. Every glance, every step, every note, it all felt intentional, deliberate, powerful. And yet, there was also something spontaneous, something unpredictable, something that made the entire night feel alive in a way that couldn't be replicated. As the concert moved toward its final moments, the energy began to shift once more. The intensity softened, the lights dimmed, and the music slowed, guiding the audience gently toward the end. But no one wanted it to end, because they knew they had witnessed something rare, something that wouldn't happen again in quite the same way. Jungkook stood at the center of the stage one last time, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling as he looked out at the crowd. His expression had changed again, less intense, more reflective, almost emotional. He lifted the microphone, but for a moment he didn't speak. He just looked, as if trying to remember every face, every light, every sound, as if trying to hold on to the moment just a little longer. And then he bowed, deeply. The crowd responded instantly, their voices rising into one final, overwhelming roar that filled the stadium and spilled out into the night beyond. When the lights went out, when the music stopped, when the stage finally fell silent, something lingered. Something that couldn't be turned off. Something that couldn't be explained. Outside the stadium, fans poured into the streets, their voices still buzzing with disbelief. Social media exploded within minutes, videos spreading across the world, reactions flooding in from every corner of the globe. Did you see that? Was he really flying? That was insane. But no matter how many times they replayed the clips, no matter how many angles they watched, one truth remained. It wasn't the same. Because what happened in Tampa wasn't just something you could watch. It was something you had to feel. And for those who were there, for those who stood in that stadium, for those who screamed, cried, and lost themselves in that moment, one thing became clear beyond any doubt. This wasn't just a concert. This was a statement, a declaration, a reminder of what happens when talent, passion, and connection collide at the highest level. And at the center of it all stood Jungkook, not just as a performer, not just as a member of BTS, but as something more, something bigger, something unforgettable. Because on that night in Tampa, one truth echoed louder than anything else. The king had taken the stage, and the world wasn't ready.